Today I'm going to be coloring a random object. This is I Don't Know What I'm Coloring, retro pop art comic book with 51 mystery hidden creatures and spooky vibes. It is a Halloween edition. So basically, these are coloring books where you follow the spiral and then you don't really know what you're coloring until enough of the spiral is filled in. Like here, this is obviously a Frankenstein monster. Like this is what they look like after, but this is what they start out looking like. So I'm just gonna pick a random page. I don't just want to do the first one because that's usually the ones that are spoiled in the reviews. This actually, I think I can see what this is. I can't tell what this one is. Alright, so you just start at the beginning of the spiral. Just start filling it in. I chose an orange pen because Halloween colors. I suppose you could start from the middle also, but I don't know which one you need to start filling in. They both look like they could be the spiral. Although I'm sure if you just filled in the wrong one, then you'd still see the picture. It would just be reverse. The picture would be left white and the border would be, the rest of it would be whatever color you're using. This pen might run out of ink before we get to the end. first loop is done. This might take longer than I thought. Does anybody else frequently have dreams of the shows that they're watching? I've been rewatching The Walking Dead, and it seems almost every other night I have a dream that I'm in that universe. I watched a movie called The Cursed on Netflix recently. Or was it on? Yeah, I think it was on Netflix. And it was about the Beast of Gavaden. Or Javaden. I forgot how it's pronounced. When I first learned about it, it's supposedly one of the very first accounts of a werewolf. The Beast of, I used to call it Gavaldine for some reason, but it's Javaden, I think. Where a giant wolf was attacking a village. And it kept killing people, which was unusual behavior. Like, it just kept coming back. And it was said to be like double the size of a regular wolf. And some people claimed they saw it walking on 2 hind legs. But of course it would be the hind legs. Imagine it walking around on its front legs. Just hands standing around everywhere. But anyway, it kept eating the townspeople, so a hunting party went out after it, and I believe they captured it and killed it, but it took them a while, they couldn't find it for some time. And that's where, I can't remember if that's just one of the birthplaces of the werewolf legend, or if it is the birthplace of the werewolf legend. Can't quite remember, but anyway, the movie The Cursed is based on the Beast of Javaden, which I actually didn't know when I was first watching it until midway through. He mentioned Javaden, and I was like, hey, this actually makes sense. This is based on, I think they actually call it the Beast of Javaden at one point. and my nerd brain lit up. Because it's been a very long time since I did any research on the history of the werewolf legend. There are just so many things out there, you know? So many different legends, folklore, myths. I mean, if you were to study all of them, it'd take an entire lifetime, maybe even more, to become well versed in them all. So, I don't remember the full details, but that's what I remembered from it. Honestly, mostly I only watch horror movies. I'm not a fan of what I call gorer movies, where it's not actually scary, it's just disgustingly brutal for no reason. I mean, if that's your thing, but it ain't mine. I mostly like the atmospheric horror movie, or the outlandish ones. Like one of my all-time favorite horror movies is the original Thing movie, where a research team in Antarctica discovers an alien life form that can take on the appearance of any human it comes in contact with. Incredibly freaky body horror. I really liked the movie. What was it called? It was based on a Lovecraft story, and it had Nick Cage in it. What the heck was it? The Color Purple? No. I think The Color Purple's a whole nother story. Not even horror. The Color Out of Space or something. I don't know, I can't think right now, it's pretty early. And I've given up caffeine because it gives me problems cognitively. I feel like I have declined since I stopped consuming caffeine, but I felt like it was messing with my health. Basically, I felt like I was becoming dependent. That if I didn't have caffeine in a few hours, I would get a horrible headache. Like if I didn't drink caffeine right away in the morning, I'd already have a horrible tension headache. Why do you suppose people gravitate towards horror? Those that do, I don't mean all people. Do you suppose it's a curiosity of the unknown or the absurd? does it tend to be people who are more in touch with their intuition? Or more in touch with the spirit realm? I often think about how once upon a time you could just build a boat and go wherever you want. Well, not without conflict, but I guess the world's always been the way it is. It's just to a different degree. Humanity has always had a very barbaric side. And always will. Too many people are sociopaths, and I think that's why our society is the way it is. I know there's people who are diagnosed and try to do what they can, but there's a lot of undiagnosed sociopaths who just don't feel empathy. They don't have a conscience. They can do whatever, anything to anyone, not feel remorse, because they simply don't have a conscience. They don't feel guilt, they don't feel regret. And they are everywhere. I think it's something like 1 in 24 people or something is an undiagnosed sociopath. Which is pretty crazy if you think about it. Which of your neighbors are sociopaths? Which of your coworkers? Which of your family members? It's not always obvious, because they can hide it, like they're aware that it's not socially acceptable to be cruel, but they just don't feel anything themselves. So it's only fear of punishment that keeps them from being cruel, because they don't comprehend cruelty. And I think that the estimate of 1 in 24 might actually even be low. And they just don't feel any kind of guilt over not caring, over having no, I don't know if they're capable of love. I don't think they are. Because I think in order to be capable of love, you would have to be able to have, you'd have to possess some sort of empathy, right? I am not any kind of mental health professional. This is just stuff I've read, and it could all be totally inaccurate, so take anything I say with a grain of salt. I'm not known as any sort of genius or anything. I'm just a regular gal. Can't tell what this is yet. But the spirals are getting smaller. So maybe it won't take as long as I thought. So dreams, back to dreams. For a few years in my early 20s, was trying to learn to lucid dream. I've read many books on the subject, and I don't know about you, but sometimes dreams are better than reality. And sometimes you just want to live in them a little bit longer. I feel like I've been on the cusp of being lucid in a dream many times, but then I wake up immediately. Or I've just been so close to understanding that I'm in a dream. Like I'll say, I hope this isn't a dream in my dream, or I hope this is a dream, but I just don't get past that and realize this is a dream. I can do what I want. I've even had dreams where I realize this is a dream, but I don't realize that, oh, this is a dream. I can do what I want within the dream. And there are many methods to make yourself lucid dream, but they're not really methods I want to try. Like there's one where you set an alarm for like every 2 hours or something to interrupt your sleep cycle at the last minute or whatever. And I don't know, I can't do that. That's a little extreme for me. There's also little things you can do, like look at your watch every so often, and when you look at your watch, say to yourself, this is real life, because, you know, the watch, the dial is moving or whatever. And then when you're in your dream and you wonder if you're dreaming, you can look at your watch and determine if it's a dream or not. Something like that. It's also been a while since I read up on that. But dreams have just always fascinated me so much. I'm sure that's a very common thing to be fascinated by. I mean, I think more people dream than don't. Well, I think everybody dreams. Some people just remember them, and some people don't. And a lot of people that don't remember their dreams, they think they don't have them, but they're just not remembering them. But who are we to say? Maybe there are people who don't dream. I wonder if when we die, we dream, or if it's just like the part of sleep we don't experience. Like, do we just dream for eternity? Or is death like the part of sleep that we're not conscious for? Like, you're not aware at all, you're just gone until you wake up the next morning. Except when you die, you don't wake up the next morning. So it's like sleeping without, is it like sleeping without dreams and without waking up at the end of it? Or, because that, I mean, that wouldn't be so bad, would it? We wouldn't be aware. Like, we couldn't miss life because we just are not conscious. We're not conscious to think about it or anything. Like, we're just not there anymore. Which seems pretty cruel on the one hand, but on the other, maybe it's not so bad. I mean, think about how amazing sleep is. Like, you just drift off and then you're done, you're out. You don't have to experience anything. Or do we dream? We'll never know until we get there. Alright, I'm still not sure what I'm coloring yet. I know that's the whole point. I don't know, this might not get done in one sitting. My ability to stay within the lines is kind of non-existent. It's funny how some dreams are just complete non-linear nonsense. Just a bunch of wacky stuff happening that's unrelated and doesn't make sense. Just completely train wrecked. And then you'll have linear dreams that just follow a story the whole time. That just follow one storyline. And maybe have a few things that don't make sense, but it's all relative. It all can be related to the main plot of the dream. Then you have those dreams that aren't completely random, but aren't completely linear, but like the linear story just takes on a completely different shape. And you're just suddenly in a completely different world or something. But it's the same dream. Or it's the same dream, but it's like like it'll be linear, then some change will happen, and it just completely turns into a whole nother story. Then, of course, there are nightmares. I've had 2 episodes of sleep paralysis in my life. One, I just woke up in the middle of the night in my bed and couldn't move or talk or breathe, but I knew I was like awake and everything. And it took a minute for me to finally wake up fully. And it took a minute for me to finally realize and snap out of it. But the other one was actually one of the scariest moments of my life. I had fallen asleep on the couch. And where I lived, it was a really small, tiny house. And the couch was right next to the front door. And I woke up and the front door was open, and I just remember feeling the most existential dread. Like it was just a feeling, that feeling of impending doom, that something's wrong and you're about to die. I have that horrible feeling. You can't really explain it to someone unless they've experienced it, because you won't know what I'm talking about unless you've experienced it, or you just have this overwhelming sense of dread. And in the corner of my eye, standing right next to my pillow, was just this giant shadow figure. And I tried to scream and try to move, but I couldn't. I could not move. I couldn't speak. It was just me, this giant shadow creature, a total sense of impending doom. And it lasted for about a minute. And then I woke up and the door was closed. The door wasn't even open. And there was no shadow figure. And I immediately knew what it was, because years before I had read about sleep paralysis, but I never thought it would happen to me. And it was so random. Like, there was nothing I could think of that would have triggered it. It was just a normal day like any other. And I'd fallen asleep on the couch before. So it was just completely random and out of the blue. And I could not sleep for the rest of the night because I was so scared it was going to happen again. Honestly, the scariest part wasn't even the shadow figure. The scariest part was that feeling. The feeling of complete dread and hopelessness. It honestly is the worst. Like, it's worse than actual physical pain, in my opinion. I was so terrified of that happening again. That it was very hard for me to sleep for a long time. And then it made me even more afraid, because I started looking into sleep paralysis again. And discovered that lack of sleep actually increases your odds. So I wasn't able to sleep because I was scared of experiencing that feeling again. But all I was doing was improving my odds of having a sleep paralysis episode again. Thankfully, I've never had another one since then, and I hope I never do, but it was so random. The other one wasn't nearly as bad. And that that one happened. That one actually did happen after the shadow figure one, but it wasn't nearly as bad as that one. I don't even know if it was actually sleep paralysis. I mean, I didn't experience the dread or any shadow figure or anything. Just the inability to breathe, move, or speak. And it lasted about a minute. But the first episode happened when I think I was 22. And I had never had one in my life before that. And then I had one a few years later. Honestly, this would probably go a lot quicker with a marker or a larger tipped pen. I still can't tell what this is. There are so many unexplained things in this life. And we try to explain a lot of them with science or, I mean, people back then, they explained everything away with different gods and such, different creatures. People used to be very sure of certain things like the sun moving around the earth. There's so many things that have just been disproven over time. But how can we be sure anything is correct without experiencing it firsthand or seeing it for ourselves? We really can't. Like, science can point us in the right direction, but I wouldn't rely too heavily on it since many scientific facts have been debunked over the years and actually reduced from fact to fiction. And oftentimes, the truth is stranger than fiction, so I think really anything is possible if you think about it. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop. So I didn't realize it, but as I'm filling these in, the table is shaking, and so was the tripod because it was sitting on the table. So I just moved it, and hopefully it's not still shaking violently. This is looking very much like a vinyl record. That's what it's reminding me of. And yeah, this table is really shaking. It was very cheap. That's why I don't really care what happens to it. It's just full of a bunch of nicks and dings and craft glue, stubborn nail varnish that won't come off no matter how much acetone I use. It's all good. You don't want your craft table to be all that expensive for the inevitable abuse it's going to take. But yeah, the whole first half of this video, the tripod was on the table, so it was shaking. And then when I came back later on to finish this, I realized that. So the tripod's on the floor now and hopefully not shaking as much. Looked like I was trying to color in the middle of a earthquake. I'm still kind of stumped. On what we're coloring. I'm sure we'll figure it out before it's fully filled in. Someone might already know what it is. That someone is not me. Is it you? Can you tell what this is yet? was gonna read Sleepy Hollow for you guys, but I was recording myself reading it and very quickly discovered, it is a classic, so it's unfortunately kind of to be expected, but there is so much racism and sexism in it. I just didn't feel right even finishing it on my own because I don't want to read a story that's going to insult my entire gender or that's going to insult an entire race of people, Even though the language of the story is beautiful and in other ways, and the story itself is interesting, it's just all the snide comments about women and black people that I just am not comfortable with personally. And it's a shame that so many of the classics, unnecessarily too, like, the comments aren't even necessary. Like, they don't further the plot or anything, they're just there to belittle. So, yeah, I decided not to read it. Well, not to finish it and not to post what I had read so far. Now, I'm sure there are updated versions that don't include the racism and sexism, but I don't know if they'd be in the public domain because it'd technically be a different printing and they could have a later copyright. So I really only want to read things that are in the public domain. I don't want to get in trouble or anything, so. Still trying to figure out what I should read next. That's not going to be too heavily. I mean, sometimes I can get past it, like if it's just a small thing or if it's part of the plot. Like I said, someone gets a comeuppance from treating people poorly. But when it's like the actual narrator just making comments that are completely unnecessary, that don't even further the plot or develop the character at all, that's what I don't like. But it's a shame because a lot of the classics have such beautiful language. And I understand it was a different time, but I don't think there is ever an excuse for treating someone differently because of how they were born. I don't think there's ever an excuse for that. And there were people in those days that didn't. There were people in those days that knew it was wrong, so that's not a good excuse. Oh, it was the times were different, yeah, and many people in those times recognized the atrocities for what they were, and they recognized the blatant racism and sexism, and they had to fight, like, why do you think it's different now? I mean, it's not perfect, but it's much better than it was, and that's because there were people that knew what was wrong and fought for us to agree as a society that it was wrong, for laws to go into place to protect people from all of that. Now, not necessarily from words, but sometimes words just aren't really necessary if all they do is hurt people. They may not physically do any damage, but they definitely can mentally affect anyone. Anyone who says differently is tricking themselves. Unless, of course, they're the aforementioned sociopath that doesn't actually really feel anything. Then you've got psychopaths, which that's a whole nother thing. I wonder how many psychopaths live among us. Those are people that not only do they not feel remorse or have a conscience, but they actively enjoy cruelty. Like, it's kind of like the opposite of somebody with a conscience. They have something that tells them to do bad things to others, and they derive joy from it. Is that a pirate? Like, that looks like it could be a hook, but it also looks like it could just be a long finger. Yeah, this is a hand right here. Is it a zombie? Maybe it's an alien. I mean, the head is, if this is a head, it's kind of big. Well, let's keep coloring and find out. Not much more to go. It should be pretty quick since it's smaller, much smaller circles now. So close to the center. Lots of traffic to edit out of this one. Oops. I go way outside the lines. This is cheating. Going ahead. I just wanted to get these long ones filled in. The paper's getting warped from all the ink. Maybe I'll use a colored pencil next time. Although, I don't know, because a colored pencil would become dull pretty quick. You have to keep sharpening it, which might get tedious. So yeah, I'm still trying to find a classic to read that's in the public domain that doesn't have unnecessary slights toward women or black people. What are you? Around the spiral. Oops. Back around the spiral. I think it's a skeleton. I might have to step back when it's finished to really see for sure. Because up close it doesn't really... Yeah, I think it is a skeleton. It may have been obvious, more obvious in the video from a different perspective. Because I am also kind of at an angle here. And we're almost done. There we go. Yeah, it's a skeleton with a pirate hat. I think it's a pirate skeleton. looking at it from straight overhead. Yeah, so the paper kind of got really dimpled from the ink. Maybe a pencil would be better, I'm not sure. I think these are really neat. Some of them you can kind of tell, like this is definitely a Dracula. This is definitely a haunted house or a castle. Some of them you can tell. This one I can't tell, I can't see anything. Some of them you can tell before you fill it in. This one I didn't realize what it was until we were about here-ish. Anyway. That's going to be it for this video. As always, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this and that you'll join me for the next one. And until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening,